Ready to rock and roll?
All the red lights are on.
Yeah, we're recording. Hi, I'm Rich, and welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast.
I'm Sandi. I guess he was going to launch into who and what was going on, but anyway.
No, you're just a little bit loggy because we just had an incredible meal.
Well, that's true. But we want to introduce our very good friend and guest, Ryan Demchynski, who, for those of you who have watched our show before, he is featured in one of quite possibly our most popular episodes on teaching me how to trap skunks. So Ryan's now known not for the very busy and full coyote trapping life that he has, but for skunks.
Yeah. Can I stop you for just a sec? Move your microphone out just a bit. We're popping a little bit. There you go.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd gladly give up the Skunk King.
Everybody's got to be good at something and be known for something, so I'll take it, I guess.
Well, here we are. We are in Saskatchewan. It is the 6th or 7th of April.
It's the 6th of April.
And we were at the Parkland Show in Yorkton in southeastern Saskatchewan. It's an outdoor show. We love coming to this. The whole thing rotates around raising money for usually for the archery program, right?
Youth archery. And this is the 8th anniversary for this particular program. And it's all a volunteer board. Nobody gets paid. It's just a tremendous group of individuals giving back to their outdoor community. So we are so pleased to be part of that.
Yeah, and it's Saturday night. We just finished the first day of the trade show, and oh my God, how many people did we talk to today?
I seriously lost count. We got there at 6:45 this morning and made copious amounts of coffee because we're here with the Old Smokes Coffee company.
Yep.
And we didn't sit down until about 4 o'clock.
Yeah, I was running on one banana.
Yeah.
From 6:30 in the morning until then, one banana. Like,
one
come
banana.
on.
1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana faint. Something like that.
Yeah, I guess I could say I've actually worked for bananas now.
I guess so. But not to take anything away, a very good opportunity, Ryan. You live about an hour and 15 minutes away from
That's
here.
That's correct, yeah.
And we just really wanted to take the opportunity to have you on the podcast and talk about all the fun things that you do and the serious part of trapping as well. And, you get your girls involved and they're a big part of your life and a big part of your trapping career.
Well, let's start. Let's step back just a little bit so he can hold on to his man card before he becomes known as the king of skunks. The very first year that we did Trapping Inc.,
yes,
he was a guest.
Yes.
And he was the king of coyotes, man.
That's
he was
true.
the coyote man.
Yeah. And let's be clear. It's not he was.
He still is.
Oh.
Yeah, he
Thank
is.
you, but there's a lot of guys that would say otherwise, I think, now. There's a lot of good guys out there.
So what your YouTube channel is Ryan 5911?
5911 Ryan, yep.
Yeah, 5911 Ryan.
That's right.
How many views have you had on that now?
Oh, it's getting close to about 4 million now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in there, you chronicle all of your coyote trapping, the various things you've done, and it's very particular to the laws here of Saskatchewan.
Correct. Yeah.
Where you're allowed to bait and you use the power rams, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
My son and I come over to do that show with you, and it was remarkable. We had such a great time. Yeah, you still set the bar high.
Nobody's beat me yet.
Yeah,
that's
right.
One thing I can hold on to yet.
And what did we get that day? One day's check here, folks. What did we get?
I believe that day was 21. 21 coyotes. I think there was a fox and 1 raccoon in there as well.
Yeah.
But I remember it was 21 coyotes that day.
Yeah, because your buddy Garrett came close. He got 20.
Yeah.
Everybody's been shooting to beat Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to knock off the king, right?
Yeah, no, it just all depends on the day you're there. There's days that, my best ever so far is 49 coyotes and 6 fox. To get one of those days on camera would be amazing. But, just sometimes you go out, you get 4 or 5, and Next day it's 28 or something. You never know what's out there.
And it's remarkable when you showed me the footage of that, and here we have a 1-ton Ford, and it is sitting on the overloads. That's how much weight is in there, and those are all coyotes, baby.
Yep.
Those are all $140, $150 a piece Saskatchewan coyotes.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, that was before all that shoulder lice went through too. Everyone was a good coyote. That was call those the good old days now.
And those are beautiful coyotes.
Yep, they were really nice.
The lighter colored and really nice.
Ryan, it's legal here to use dead animals, and you were working with a big feedlot or something.
It was a big kill plant.
And
that's right.
So
yep.
they had 40 carcasses for you, or 30 carcasses. Had them all on a trailer.
Yep.
And you lost an axle on trying to bring them home.
Yeah.
So this is only in rural
Saskatchewan.
prairies. Yeah, Saskatchewan, Alberta. Yeah, it's just the same there.
Yeah.
And here's this mounds of dead carcasses of cattle on top of the trailer alongside of the road, and then I was like, Ryan, don't worry about it. We'll take care of it later, And
well, I didn't have any parts, so I had to tarp it and leave it, and it was 2 or 3 days before the parts come in, and
had the ravens found it by then?
Well, the tarp kind of blew over on one corner, so there was a couple animals, but the police stopped, and they were wondering, of course, why is this trailer? Because I moved it off the road into the ditch, and so the police, of course, stopped, run the plate, make sure it's not stolen or anything, and they started kind of,
and
what?
Who would steal it?
Well,
anyway?
that's it. Yeah. Well, at that time it was tarped. I should say that. But they kind of looked in, and they got a hold of me pretty quickly, and they says, "Could you please move that?" So parts came in, got the new axle on and everything, and away she went.
I think everybody's had a story like that somewhere in their
I
lives.
had another friend was going down the road, and he actually had 18-inch sideboards on a flat deck, and he had it heaped up with beaver carcasses. And the cop stopped him, and you can't be doing this. He says, "Why?"
Yeah.
And they tried everything to try to go through everything why he couldn't be doing it. There was no reason. And he says, "You can't be doing it." He says, "Why?" He says, "Because you shouldn't be." He says, well,
you
sir,
can't because you shouldn't.
Yeah.
"Well, sir, please understand." He says, "How do I get all my beaver carcasses?" The guy says, "I can't believe we're talking about beaver, about hauling beaver. You have to know this fella." I was just
the
rolling.
odd conversations that you can have on the side of a country road with the RCMP.
I think every trapper has some goofy tale like that.
Oh, well, I remember you talking about when you first started setting these baits, and that year it was cold really early, and he's in a panic because I'm coming, right? And when the camera comes, that's the biggest Murphy you can ever have. That camera showing.
Absolutely, yes.
And nothing is coming to all his baits, and he realizes that. Because it's been so cold, all these carcasses are frozen solid. So he does what every Saskatchewan farm boy does. He gets out the chainsaw and he cuts these carcasses into slices and pieces, and that, so that it opens up. And the birds now, because really when you're setting these baits, it's the birds that you got to attract.
Typically, yeah. I try to attract the ravens. They're kind of a necessary evil. The more ravens I have at those baits, the more coyotes I'll catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's the big calling card in the sky, right?
It, like, it's been said, and it's very true. Ravens cannot keep a secret.
Yeah.
And as long as they're out there squawking, every coyote will come.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, if you put 1,000 pounds of meat there, I bet you 800 of it goes to the birds.
I would like to find out one day, like they're not an overly huge bird. They're a decent size, but what could they eat versus what the coyotes eat? Because the amount of bait that we go through going after coyotes is unremarkable.
Oh, I know. It's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have the same thing, and of course for us, I mean, we can't haul when we're out going after wolf. We can't haul domestic animals out there, and that. So we gotta scrape up roadkill or use beaver carcasses and that. So we hate every one of those black flying bags.
I have to tell you a story about trying to go out to the trap line this winter and roadkill.
Go ahead. She manages a bunch of city people in a bank.
Yep.
And so they live and die by her stories. It's like, and they all say, "Sandi, when it all goes down, when things go bad, we're coming to your place."
When the apocalypse happens, we're coming to your house.
The worst part is I've been told that exact same thing.
Yeah. I talked about picking up roadkill because he has a permit to do that, and how we debate on our own property. We have to find the roadkill. And so we're leaving for the cabin one Friday evening, and we get out on the road, and we're not a mile from home, and he finds a dead moose in the ditch, and it's like we have to turn around, go home, so he can get the skid steer and down the road so he can scoop up a dead moose on the side of the road and take it back to the shed.
I know that struggle.
Like, wow, why did I leave work early?
I just love how all these folks, their eyes are that big. You know, it's like to them it's so foreign, and to us it's just, oh, there's a moose. Let's go get go get the skid steer and the grapple, right?
I am guilty of posting on Facebook because our laws, wherever you find the roadkill, you have to use it within 100 kilometers. I was come back from Edmonton one time, and out by somewhere Lloydminster, North Battleford, there was a nice fresh whitetail on the road. Post on Facebook. There's roadkill there if anybody wants it. And there it was. The scramble was on. All the guys local that area. So yeah, I know this struggle.
There was a mad dash to the roadkill.
I got a buddy, and I am so jealous. Robin Marshall. He has a picker truck.
Yep.
So every moose and everything just picker it into the back of the truck.
Absolutely.
Like, I got to do that. I'm getting a picker soon, Sam.
Surprise.
More things to spend money on. What a surprise.
Yeah.
So after the day one here at the Parkland show, we had a big supper.
Yes.
And as the announcer said tonight when we were talking about us going to the meal night, he says, we're in Saskatchewan, southern Saskatchewan here. We're behind the garlic wall, which means there's a lot of ethnic and Ukrainian cooking here. So pierogies and cabbage rolls, and we're all pretty dang full.
Oh yes, very delicious.
It's a good thing that we have something like this to do, to laugh and keep ourselves awake. Because otherwise, I think we might all be snoozing very soon. But it was good, very good.
So now let's move on beyond, your once former glory of being the Coyote King to skunks.
Yeah.
I understand skunks are a big deal in your life right now.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those goofy things that the weirdest things that happen to me are never ever by design. They just kind of happen. Like that YouTube channel, it was originally designed that I just took a picture and video of my skinning trailer because I'd had everybody telling them what I was planning, and they had all kinds of ideas, me driving around the fields with semis, and nobody could understand what I was doing. So I made this stupid little video. It was too big to email, so I put it up on YouTube. I called everybody. I said, okay, go on YouTube, search for this, and watch it. There was 3 or 4 views of people I talked to, and then it just kind of grew. And the same thing has now happened with these damn skunks. At first, it was, I just want to catch a couple skunks and make a pair of mitts. And well, geez, they're pretty easy to catch, and that's when I started realizing is if you use these Magnum like the 120 Belials or any of these certified trap. That's right, the certified traps for Marten Fisher. All of a sudden, these little suckers are really easy to deal with.
Here, I want to go down a little bit of a tangent here because what he's doing is he's using a kill trap on an animal that is notorious for exploding. Having a dead man switching its hand and the grenade going off when it dies.
Yeah.
And I want explain how this works and like how you set it up in the box and the trap itself and walk us through the process.
Well, basically, they're a little shorter than what you guys typically use for Marten. And what I've done is the sides are a little bit taller than the bottom.
So these are the boxes.
Yeah, the box itself, correct. And it's just your regular plywood box. And they're notched for the 120. And they stand, the bottom of the floor is 1.5 inches or so off of the ground. And that just gets me off of the grass, any of the mud or snow or anything like that. They're a little shorter. They're 14 inches. You guys usually use typically more of like a 22 or 24 inches.
That's 14 is
14? Yep. Okay, I thought you guys were a lot longer in the Marten world.
We have some that are that long.
Yeah,
but
it's an evolving thing.
Yeah, they're a short, stout little box. And the 120 is set the trigger on the bottom and on the inside inside of the box. And that gives you a really nice suitcase catch. Or if you put it on the outside, skunks have got the weirdest shaped body. They have this beautiful, huge chest and these scrawny little beaker from the Muppet's neck.
Okay.
And if you get them perfect catch on the neck, they're dead. It's great. But they always seem to be able to get this arm in there. And if you just get the one jaw on the neck, that arm, and they're alive. Oh. It's not humane, and then you're having to deal with a live skunk. So I tried to go for the suitcase catch, and I get both of the feet are inside the trap now, and I get one here and one here. And it is extremely humane, very fast. I just actually caught one today, put up a little quick video on Facebook, and the trap One jaw was still actually in the box. The box hadn't been disturbed. Just it hits them and they just stop. As you've seen when we were there, there's very little struggle.
No.
Most of them are on a loose wire. It's wired just in case raccoon or coyote comes along or anything. But it's very quick, very humane. And I'm not sure how it works with the skunk, because I know if you shoot a skunk, 99% of the time they'll spray. If you go near them, they'll spray. There's all kinds of different things that'll make them spray, but for some reason, these traps they just will not spray.
They die so quick.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's maybe they're not frightened or it happens so quick. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's one of those things that, as you noticed, you were saying that you couldn't believe they don't stink. And
No.
you always have a light odor of skunk, but they don't go full nuclear, as everybody calls it,
Full nuclear. That's a good description, because I remember we caught one in the wintertime and there was fresh snow on the ground, and it was like a green bomb.
Yeah.
It was fluorescent green. It was like you knew that stunk without even getting close to it.
Correct. Yeah, I think we smelled it when we drove up to that spot, and that was one that just got incidentally caught in a raccoon set, and he went full nuclear. If you use the right size, it's just every time I get him.
What I thought was neat, you put the dog on the bottom, and then the trap, the trigger on the trap was up, and you offset it so that it's kind of looked like the goalposts for
Correct,
for
like,
hockey,
yeah,
or for football.
for football, yeah.
Your reasoning, your thinking on that.
Well, it's not as bad for the skunks, but on raccoon always want to reach. They have hands that are pretty much like ours. They always want to reach. And if you have your trigger, whichever direction, but in the V, like they come factory, they always get smacked on the hand, pull out of the trap, or you have a live raccoon caught by a foot, which, we're not after that at all by any means.
Right.
So what I did was I moved the triggers over, and the raccoon can reach in. He doesn't hit the trigger.
Yeah.
And when he realizes that he must commit to get in, he puts his foot back, and then they commit, and you get these perfect catches on him.
Okay.
So I did that with the skunk ones because you get a lot of incidental raccoons, and I don't want the raccoon getting caught by the foot.
Right.
It happens occasionally, but most of the time the raccoon will do whatever he's doing. He'll knock the trap out. Sometimes he'll snap it or whatever, but you don't get these live raccoons in.
Okay.
And it's just kind of more for the raccoon. The skunks are pretty easy. They'll push right through it. They're not too concerned about it, but it's just for the raccoons mostly.
And because he's got that opening in there, he actually gets over top of the trigger itself.
Yep.
And then you were saying that, with that goal post out at the side, it would hit him on the shoulder or whatever.
That's right.
And it made that perfect catch.
Yeah, and also is where the jaws on the bottom, it seems like they put their feet between the two, and then they commit, and that gives you your perfect, like where the legs are inside the trap and they're not interfering with the action of the trap.
Right.
And you get across the chest and right on the neck.
Well, I know. I mean, you said, and Sandi, of course, this was less than a week in front of our youngest boy's wedding, and she was afraid of smelling like skunk there, and I told her nobody would notice.
Who would be afraid of that?
So, but we got 19 that day.
15, I think, was the number,
Okay.
if I'm correct.
Okay.
I'd have to go back, but I think it was around 15, I think we got that day.
I thought it was 19, but it makes no difference. I mean, nothing. They were dead. There was no smell. It was amazing.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing how little a skunk smells in its natural situation.
I've said it before, and I stand by it, especially in the summer and the fall, is any place in southern Saskatchewan, you are no more than 200 yards away from a live skunk at any time.
Right.
And that's in cities, even anywhere in the country. There are skunks everywhere, and unless something disturbs them and you spray or a roadkill or something, you don't even notice they exist, and they don't have a smell.
Right.
Yeah.
So the bait we were using was rotted beaver.
Yeah, just whatever it rots in the back of the truck, kind of.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, it just put chunk it up, cut it up with a sawzall, and throw everything in a pail, and it just kind of does its own thing. And there's
Gets sweet all on its own.
It does. Yeah, even if it's just fresh, they'll still go for it. But it gets a little taint to it. It's all that much better.
So why that? I think you were explaining you thought that it eliminated a lot of raccoons.
Oh, that definitely, yeah. If I use beaver, I will catch pretty much all skunks. And if I use oily fish like herring, cisco, tulipy, smelts, I'll get almost all raccoons.
Right.
And it's just they have a very distinct preference for which bait they want. And I can take a 220 in a bucket and set two side by side, put one with one bait, one with the other, and I can tell exactly which one I'll catch in each just by the bait.
No kidding.
Yeah. And so if I'm targeting raccoons, I will get out the 220s and I'll put fish and everything. I get the odd skunk here and there, but I'll get nothing but raccoons. And I know the skunks are right there because in the wintertime when they're denned up, you can go into the old houses, and if you look under the rafters or just the right place, you'll actually find them. And they're denned up, raccoons and skunks all together. And they all just huddle together in a big ball, and that's where they sleep.
No kidding.
They live together. And yeah, so when they come out of the den, they're all coming out at the same entrances, going in and out the same places, use the same trails. And just depending on the bait will depend which one you want to catch.
That's amazing. I found it amazing how you reasoned through that. I mean, all trapping is a game of numbers. And you reasoned through how you could get the most skunk traps out for the least amount of hassle.
Yeah.
In Saskatchewan, all the road allowances to the fence are part of the RM, the
That's
rural
correct.
management area, right?
Yeah,
or
the rural municipality, but
or the county, right?
Yeah.
So you had 200 miles of trap line, and all you had to deal with was 2 RMs, right?
I talked to 4.
4.
Yeah, and that was over the course of that whole year when I got 300 skunks. I talked to 4 people.
300 skunks.
Yeah, well, 296 if you want to get technical, but yeah. Yeah, I talked to 4 people.
And I'm betting there is nothing that ruins a skunk's hide. It's not like coyotes that can get mange or coyotes will get shoulder lice where you catch what would have been a $150 coyote and it's worthless. I bet nothing bothers a skunk, right?
Actually, no. The odd one, when you get the really big old ones, they get kind of a mangy look on the back of their neck, but it's really rare. Most skunks are really good condition. The odd one, and they're old, they'll get a yellow tinge on the stripe.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, nothing bothers skunks. They never ever have any scars on them or anything. They're always really nice and easy to deal with.
Almost like porcupines, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
So how big is an average skunk?
I would say somewhere in the range of about 5 to 7 pounds. The biggest that I've weighed now is 19, though.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the one that Allison caught, and that one is just over 51 inches from nose to tip of tail.
Wow.
Yeah, it is absolutely huge.
A booner.
Yeah, that's what we call it, a booner. I have one that's just under 51. Hers is over 51, so we have 2 booners, on the wall.
Amazing.
Yeah, they're taller than my leg.
Yeah.
You could put your leg inside and use them as pants. They're that big. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there was 2 things there. I mean, you had a use for the fur.
Yes.
A very definite use for the fur. But there's also that liquid gold.
That's the good stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So you get on an average, when we're talking about the essence, pure quill. That's what they call it when you draw it right out of the skunk. It's called pure quill. It's not tinctured. It's not preserved. It's nothing else. It's pure quill.
And it's red.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
reddish.
it's got that weird, orangey red color, and then the mustard on the bottom.
The mustard, yeah. Oh, we got the best story
You
ever.
can't imagine what that's like to tell bankers that you suck the mustard out of a skunk.
Okay, well, let's explain how this is done for anybody that doesn't know, because I mean we're laughing because we have banker stories about this. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
But you were showing, we did this on camera, which was so cool.
Yeah.
You showed her how to extract the essence. The part that nearly made me drop the camera was when you told her that she had to put her thumb over top of the vent because they sometimes backfire a bit.
That's correct.
Take us through all the steps.
So basically, you've pretty much put her there. You just got to put your finger over the vent.
And the glands are positioned
right on each side of the tail, on each side of the vent.
Okay.
Basically, there's a little sphincter between those glands and the opening, and sometimes they don't quite close, and if you touch that gland, it will shoot out the vent. So don't ask me how I learned. My finger on the
Not
vent.
my experience.
Yeah,
Nope.
and then put the needle into the gland, and then start drawing.
You can feel them. They're like cherry tomatoes or
Yeah,
something.
very similar, like a cherry tomato or a grape. The big ones are almost like a plum. They are some really big ones. And you can feel them underneath the skin. And all I do is, just jab the needle right through. And then I start pulling suction on the needle, pull the needle out. And when it enters the gland starts to collapse. And it's an actual sac. We would call it a gland. It's an actual sac.
Okay.
And so it's basically like you're deflating a balloon. And all of it drains into the needle. And at the very end, you get the yellow fatty, which everybody typically calls the mustard.
Right.
And when you got the mustard coming into the needle, that she's pretty much empty.
You got her dry.
You got her dry, and you do that on both sides and into a bottle. And as you notice, that's the part that smells then.
Well, but interestingly enough, everybody, skunk has a very distinctive smell. everybody knows if they're near one who's sprayed or whatever. But when you pull that pure quill out of those glands and you shoot it into
The baby.
well, in this case, it was a baby food jar that we were using.
That's a whole other story why we figured that one out.
And you think that you would be overwhelmed with the smell of skunk, but what it smelled like to me anyway was very, very, very strong garlic.
And you actually
And you
taste
could
that.
taste it right back, at the back of your tongue or the top of your throat or whatever you want to say. But it was not unpleasant, which
No.
was very surprising to me.
That's right.
I thought it would be a lot more unpleasant than it turned out to be.
So tell me about what's the average you get out of a skunk?
Across the board, I average a half an ounce.
ounce.
And that's some of them that are like your juvenile skunks that only have a few drops, all the way up to your big males that, you get a couple, 3 ounces on some of them.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the jackpot there. I've used 50 cc syringes and I've had to dump and go back and get more out of one sack alone.
Wow.
Yeah,
The 50 cc is 2 ounces.
Yeah, there's some really good ones, but those, those are rare, obviously. But yeah, every once in a while you get one, and you could just see it's just 2 big humps on the underside. You could just see, they're
Pair of grenades there with
pretty
the pins
much,
out.
yeah, like they are very much like a plum. They are big.
A grenade would be probably appropriate.
So, I mean, it's amazing the uses for that. Of course,
Yes.
the most common is lure makers want to buy it.
That's correct. Yeah.
And they can take a 1 ounce of pure quill and they could tincture it with alcohol and that, and they turn that into what?
I honestly don't know what the ratio is, but I would assume it's at least a 4 to 1, maybe 10 to 1.
I bet 10 or more.
Yeah, every lure manufacturer has their own way of doing it, and that's their secret, and I just supply the raw product to them.
Yeah. And what do you get for an ounce?
$20 to $25 an ounce is what I've been getting, yeah. There's a lot of Americans that want it, but by the time you ship it down there and everything, and they're around...
Oh, let me tell you about shipping it, because, that's good fun. When it comes through Canada Post, as an example, and you never, ever get a phone call from Canada Post until you have a couple of ounces of pure quill that come in the mail.
That was the one that made it, though. The one that didn't make it was more funny to me.
Well, you sent it in.
Well, you asked for 2 ounces.
Yeah.
So what makes better than 2 ounces but the little airport,
Whiskey
bottles. So I got a couple of those and I filled them up and, taped them up and bagged them and you name it, everything, and sent them away. And you called a week and a half, 2 weeks later, and it's like, my stuff hasn't shown up yet. So I started doing a search and found out Canada Post destroyed them. I was like, I think something opened
Maybe
or
leaked or whatever.
Yeah,
So I shouldn't push on this one too bad.
Yeah, and it turned out, I just asked, why was it destroyed? And they said, well, it's alcohol. You're not allowed to ship alcohol across the border from Saskatchewan to Alberta.
God's my witness, I didn't know that.
That'd be my... Well, I told him, I said, you're more than free to open it up and take a swig if you think it's alcohol.
I would love that.
I don't know what X-ray it went through or whatever, but they figured it was alcohol going across the border and got destroyed.
I know.
Yeah, they didn't return it, nothing, when they did whatever they did with it.
I wonder what they did with it.
I have no idea, but
Anyway,
I tell you, if they took it home...
So the next time Ryan sent... So we tried again, and he sent it again.
This was under the direction of the lady from the post office. I said, this is what I want to ship. This is what happened. How do I do this? And she hummed and she hawed. She goes, baby food jar. I went to the store and bought applesauce, ate my applesauce. And
So, but then what happened was you never, ever, ever get a phone call from Canada Post until you've got skunk essence in the mail. And then it's, Richard, we have a package here for you. We would really appreciate it if you would come and pick it up right now. And we live about 8 to 10 kilometers from our postal pickup place, and it was outside. Yep.
It was like this package. It was all wrapped up, and you taped it off, and you double bagged
redundancy
it.
upon redundancy,
and then you put it in a bag of cat litter.
That's right. It didn't matter. It gets through.
Because it was sitting out there, and it was like something off of Superman with the box that has the kryptonite in it. It's like it's glowing, right?
Yep.
I found out again the hard way. I filled up a 26-ounce whiskey bottle, and I had it right to the lid, put the cap on, and set that one aside. Was working on other ones. And I found out, luckily, it doesn't freeze, because I thought about it after. I was like, oh boy, I left those out all winter in there. And I thought it was going to freeze, but it's still liquid. But when spring come, that stuff expands a lot.
Oh.
Well, yeah, it didn't
Blew
break.
the
It
top
didn't.
off.
Yeah, it sure did. So that's probably what happened to yours. It just expanded and.
So lesson to self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always leave it down that much now, and.
So I mean, the natives have a special use for it.
Yeah.
They believe it's a medicine.
Yep.
And it's funny. We'll get to this in a sec, but they believe if you're sick or if you have a bad cold or whatever, you should take a shot of it. And like when we're talking on Facebook and that, and lots of times our friends will, you should take a shot of that stuff, Rich. Take this. I'm thinking nothing's that bad.
No, I've never been that sick either.
I'll be dead 2 days before I'm going to try that. So, but turns out you had a scientist contact you.
Yeah. A guy from out in Long Island in New York, chemist, and he's in his mid-50s now. He's been a chemist, master's degree chemistry, and we got talking about skunk essence, and he looked into it, and somebody actually went through and figured out what was actually in it, and I told him,
I got to know, how do you from nowhere, Saskatchewan, run into a chemist from Long Island? Like, I mean, come on. I mean, literally, that's your address. When I send you something, it's postal code nowhere.
It's that YouTube. That was it.
Okay.
He started talking to me that way, and
When Sandi made you the king of skunks?
well, no, it was before that even. Yeah, before that. Yeah.
Before he was famous for
Yeah,
skunks.
that's right. And he just started telling me, and we got talking, and anyway, I asked him, I said, what actually happens? Like, the natives drink this stuff apparently, and it makes them feel great. And of course, everybody's just, I've never been that sick or anything.
Yeah.
And then he started thinking about the actual chemistry, and he's like, da-da-da-da-da, and he's doing this in his head. You can hear him thinking. He goes, oh my God. He goes, that's your market. And I was explained. Basically, 38 to 44% of the stuff is mercury capture agents, mercaptans, they call this apparently. And I am not doing the chemistry justice by trying to explain it, but any of your heavy metals in your body, mercury, lead, it's like a huge system flush.
No kidding.
Yep.
That's
And
amazing.
that will actually treat water systems to get mercury and lead out of water.
No way.
Yeah. It is nature's very own detoxifier for heavy metals.
Now that's something.
Yeah.
Skunk essence as
Correct.
a detoxifier.
It's kind of like that really awful cough syrup, right? That
Yeah,
Buckley's.
Buckley's.
Tastes
It's great,
awful,
but it works.
See, this is the same thing. It's like you better be sure that you're really sick because there's the cure.
Well, they don't. As far as I understand it, they don't actually pour it in the water, but there's some chemical process that actually they use it and it absorbs this stuff. And yeah, the actual water doesn't smell or taste like skunk and anything like that. It's just pure water, and all the mercury and lead and everything is removed. And apparently, the only stuff available on this planet right now is synthesized only. And from what I was told, China is the only place on the planet that are allowed to make it anymore because it's so stinky and so bad for the environment.
Oh, really?
And the environmental standards, nowhere else is really allowed to produce this stuff.
So that led to some speculation about raising skunks.
Lots of skunks.
Okay, I mean, you all have your buddies where you sit around and have a beer and laugh and jokes, and things go sideways. Well, we've done this with Ryan, and things have went sideways. And I'm thinking about we have a big barn, right? And it's got 2,000 skunks in it, right? And we're thinking about all of the the issues that might be involved, and I'm thinking about. What if you're in the middle of that when a thunder and lightning storm happens and one of those skunks pulls the pin? They're all going to pull a pin. you better be packing a handgun on you so you can shoot yourself in the head.
I think if it ever got to that point, I think my nose would be so burned out from it that I hopefully I wouldn't notice already at that point. But you never know.
You just notice everybody leaving around you.
It would just be a green fog.
Yeah, I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
So your work with these skunks, though, I mean, it's led you to kind of a neat mini career in fur and the stuff that you've been doing in fur. Yeah. Like you've made some wonderful fur trim mucklucks and
fur trim capes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The earmuffs and that for your daughters. I mean,
A backpack. The backpacks
Yeah,
that you
the
made for
raccoon
your
backpacks.
girls
Yeah.
from raccoon. Yeah.
so you just decided just give that a whirl.
Basically, I'm one of those people that you'll never hear me bitch about the fur prices.
No.
That's one thing I won't. If there's a bad price, figure out a market. We are not bound by anybody that we must sell to the auction. We have your own imagination, your own limitations is all that stop us from figuring out what to do with our fur.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm the kind of guy, obviously, with skunks, anybody talk about skunks, they're like not even going near it. And I'll dive head first into something stupid and try it and see what happens. And
But it's
the
amazing.
same with the fur. Like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you've developed a heck of a market there. I mean, the money in the essence,
Yep.
and then you're taking. Do you tan your own skunk?
I
or-
have, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of tanning. There's a local tannery here in Saskatchewan, and I told him, I said, I got a couple 300 skunks coming your way. He goes, no, you don't. And he told me he doesn't have the room or the patience for that smell, and his wife would kill him. So we made a deal that he would teach me how to tan, and I'd take him up to his place for the final drummings and everything, use his drum. And I'm allowed to tan my own fur and sell it that way under his guidance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a lot of work to tanning a skunk?
Labor.
Labor.
Yeah, it's all labor. It is because there's such drastic black and whites, and you have to get those whites white and keep the blacks black. And any type of a bleach or anything you use to whiten that white, especially on those ones that get a little yellow, will bleed into the black and turn it brown. And that is where your labor comes in, is because you are literally parting all the stripes and treating just the stripes.
So you're just putting the bleach on the white stripe?
That's right, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of labor that way.
I know when we did the skunk show with you, you said that a skunk never gets any heavier fur. It carries the same weight of fur all year long. It's just the thickness of the leather.
The thickness of the leather, a little bit of the underfur when they prime up.
Yeah.
But in terms of the length, it's always the same.
Right.
Summer skunk has the same length as winter skunk. It's just not quite as full. But once you're into the mid-October on or anything like that, those skunks are great. No problems with them. If you go really early, the young of the year, those ones are, they just don't have anything because they're just still little, young and whatnot. But otherwise, yeah, they're really good. You can get them, right at the beginning of October already, and they make amazing mitts. And it's that color that, that's what really sells them. You're not looking for a shearing quality. You're more looking for that distinct coloring.
Well, and so many people mock the skunk, like, who's ever going to wear a coat made out of skunk?
You showed me tonight when we were at the banquet.
Yep.
A picture of a skunk coat.
Yes.
I would absolutely wear that coat. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
And
striking,
I don't
yes.
know that
Yes,
I
it
don't
is.
know that anyone would really recognize it for what it actually is, because it is such a striking pattern and style that is very, very appealing, I think, anyway.
Okay, I want to tan a skunk. Walk me through the steps.
Can't. I made the deal with him that I can't tell anybody.
So
Basically, I skin, flesh, board, just like every trapper does. And then after that, it's the process. And that was the deal, as I could.
So there's a setting solution, a tanning
Correct.
solution.
Yeah,
and that-
there's all the different steps, but I vowed that I would not become his competition. And he told me this is his recipe, and I'm not allowed to tell anybody. And I says I can
Fair
live
enough.
with that. And that's so
Fair enough.
I've been asked by 1,000 people because I blab about everything I do, but that's the one secret I have to keep.
I was just curious about
Yeah.
what was the hardest part of it all. Like, what was the most
breaking those
breaking.
hides. Yeah. If
Can
you
you
don't break it, you will have a piece of hard wood.
Okay, so what is breaking then? How is
You
this
are
done?
physically fighting and pulling on that leather while it's drying. In the drying process, you have to keep breaking it. And that's the hardest part of the actual labor. Your hands will really
That is
hate
a
you.
lot of labor, isn't
yeah,
it?
especially
Yeah.
when I was doing 50 skunks in a batch, and you just sit there breaking
Right.
50, and then you let them dry for another couple hours, and you go break another 50, and it's day long. Well, I should say it's about closer to 3-day process, and just constantly breaking those skins.
So how long would it take you to tan 50, start to finish?
Start to finish, about a week. Yeah,
About a week.
About a week. Yeah.
And how many hours every day, kind of thing?
The breaking portion, it's that's your entire day.
Right.
You're doing that for a couple, 3 days. The first steps are basically just solutions. You're just stirring it as you walk by and stuff like that. The long-term one is whitening those stripes, because you have to sit there and part all that fur and apply the bleach to just the whites. That takes a long time.
So is it a bleach or a peroxide?
It's kind of it's a peroxide base with a toner agent.
Okay.
And it really...
Like dyeing hair.
Basically, yeah. It's hair. You're just taking that yellow out of the white. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, and that takes a long time. And inevitably, you always get a little bit on the black, and then you go back with black fur dye, and you have to repaint the black. So,
You ever touch up your goatee while you
no,
got the black?
I've left that alone. I earned this one. No, I'd probably turn myself pure black, or it looked like I fell into a pail of dye or something.
Yeah. You know, it's that question that I always ask. Is what's the worst thing that could happen? Yeah. Not enough people ever ask themselves that question before they enter into something.
That's my life.
So your skunks, all your skunks, you turn into gloves.
Most of them are going for gloves, or I make them myself. But most of them sell to furriers across Western Canada, and they're made into gloves. A few into hats, but mostly gloves.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got a great market for it.
So far, hopefully, yeah.
And you do some of the stitching and sewing and that yourself on things like the backpacks or the capes.
Everything that's mine. Yeah.
That's all yours.
I try not to become a furrier. I'll do it for a few friends here and there, stuff like that. I'll make a few sets every year, but typically the people that are buying my skunks, I always send people over to them. There's who will do it for you, because you can get carried away into furrier business very quickly. And some of the ladies in the province that have been doing it, they're quitting their jobs and becoming full-time furriers. And
so it's making a good comeback.
It seems to, yeah. There's one lady, Carrot River, Trapline Creations, and it was over a year ago now, I believe. She quit her job and she's full-time. And there's another lady in Melville here, Touch of Wild, and she was a stay-at-home mom, and now she's looking for almost like a nanny. She's that busy. And
good.
Moccasins and mitts and hats and just, all those fur, not your full-length fur coats or anything, but just all your different fur trim. The accessories.
So like accessories, yeah.
Correct, yeah. And there's 2 ladies in Saskatchewan alone that are kept busy, and there's many others as well. But yeah.
So, and the furs that are most popular for these accessories?
The gloves are the skunk. A lot of people are getting more now into the coyote lynx. Ladies like the red fox mitts.
I've never seen red fox mitts.
Nice, actually, really neat. And then there's a lot of people, wolves even. There's a lot of wolves.
I do have wolf mitts.
Yeah. So there's that. Moccasins, lots of like raccoon used for that. Beaver. There's not really anything anymore that's preferred. There's quite a big mix going on now. A lot of people are, so-and-so has a pair of skunk mitts, and they go to get one, and look at those lynx ones, and off they go. And so there's no shortage of the selection and, what people are doing with the stuff now.
One of the things that's puzzled me is why raccoon fur is not more prized than it is.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we've seen a little bit of a bounce on raccoon prices at the auction marts, which is really good.
Yeah.
Beaver is still taking a beating, but it's amazing what the Castor, yeah, that fell right out of my head.
Castor market's pretty good right now.
It's astounding.
Yeah,
they're selling by the ounce, and like the shells, which are the ones that look like a flat broad bean, are going for over $5. And I had some that were number ones that went just for just about $12 an ounce.
Yep.
You get a lot of castor out of a beaver.
Yep.
That takes us back to another thing that you did.
Okay.
And nobody knows very much about this, well, other than all the aunties, I guess.
I know where this is going, yeah.
But here in Saskatchewan, every one of the RMs has a bounty on beaver.
Correct.
Or just about every one of them.
Yeah, there's at least a half of them. I think it's over 200 of the 400 and some or 500 RMs that have a bounty. Pretty much the eastern half of the province.
Okay, and it is because?
Overpopulation of beaver. Plain and simple. We've had a lot of wet years. Thankfully, it's starting to dry up. But lots and lots of water, rain, coupled with very few trappers, low beaver prices, and just no predators. And it's just a perfect explosion. Beaver's best food for just being healthy and vigorous is the aspen, and that's all we have out here is aspen.
Right.
And it blew up.
It's one of those funny catch-22s because on a rural, like a registered trap line in Saskatchewan, they have a quota. Mm-hmm. They have to catch so many beaver a year.
That was back in the day. They after the 80s and the fur crash, they did away with that. So even the northern guys don't have any quotas or anything for beavers anymore.
This was this beaver explosion was happening on private land.
Yes, that's right.
And so there was a huge amount of crop being lost.
Yes.
There was roads being lost.
Yep.
I remember we were out here. I think it was when we were doing Skunk, or when we did the Coyote show with you. But one beaver had terrible habit of they keep flooding the land. Well, they end up killing a lot of their own food. Mm-hmm. They drowned the poplar eventually. Right? Well, this one had drowned everything, so he decided that the farmer's crop, that I think it was wheat, he figured that was just perfect. Yep. And he had mowed about an acre of it, and he packed it off, and so you have wheat sticking out of the dam and buried in the water. It's like, oh my gosh, it was hilarious. So they were put these bounties on, and what were the bounties?
Bounties basically, the RM has a $15 minimum, and if they had $15 or more, then they could apply, and the province would match that $15 for a $30 total. And basically, all you had to do was cut that tail off.
Yeah.
That was it. The rest of the beaver could be completely 100% wasted. You didn't have anything to do with it, and anybody was allowed to do it as long as you were a Saskatchewan resident or, in that RM, or there was a whole bunch of different things, but basically anybody was allowed to do it.
Okay.
And everybody was just killing beavers, hack the tail off, leaving them on the side of the road. They were wasting everything. And that's when I was at one of the trapping conventions, and our Western Canada representative from NAFA said, Ryan, I need some casters. And I was like, well, come to southern Saskatchewan in the spring. They're everywhere. Every road's got them. Well, there went my little gerbil running in his wheel and gave birth to the Beaver Derby.
So, the year before you did the Beaver Derby, how many were bounty paid on the year before?
In the province?
Yes.
They're usually around 36,000 to 38,000 beavers.
That's right.
Yeah.
So people had shot that many,
and that's,
cut off the tail, turned them.
That's the province's portion that they meet.
Right.
And then over and above, RMs were actually paying for more as well, but nobody knows that number. Each individual RM has their own numbers, but 38,000, give or take, is what the province set aside for.
So you took then and decided you should have this competition.
That's right.
And it was for the largest one, weighed the most, the biggest tail, the widest tail.
Basically what it was everybody do what you're normally doing. Get your beaver, take your tails off. Those you collect from the bounty, and there was no interference with the RM system or any of the bounty system, but the rest of the beaver, I want that.
Right.
And I'll figure out a way to make use of it. And so basically what they were doing was a grand aggregate weight. Everybody had, you would be contestant number 1, contestant number 2, and you would bring in beavers, and I had weigh drop-off locations throughout the province, and they each had a scale, and they would weigh their beavers and tally up a little card, and everything would be recorded, and I had a running tally of all the different, people in this and how much weight they had. And then the individual biggest beaver was also an individual prize, and basically that was it. It was merely an incentive to get guys to bring the beavers to these locations, so I didn't have to run off, every single little back road.
Or that they weren't going to just be dumped on the side of the road.
And and then I had people that would collect them, keep them cool so they weren't rotting, and just basically an organized way of collecting all these beaver. And you had that incentive of a prize just so the guys would actually do it versus, I shot one over in Joe's field, or I got one over here, and then you're chasing them all over the fields and all over the province versus just bring them to these locations. And then I went and, would run around, pick them all up.
Okay, first, what was the top aggregate weight?
You would ask me that.
Well, of course I was going to ask you.
Darn, what was the number? It was a lot. It was 6,000 or 7,000 pounds.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm going to find out for you. Just give me half a minute here.
What was the biggest beaver?
That one was 80 around 84 pounds, just shy of 84 pounds, 83.
With the tail cut off.
With the tail cut off, that's correct.
Good Lord.
Yes, it was big.
Okay.
Yep.
So you weren't the cause of the beaver dying.
Nope.
You were actually trying to put them to a use.
That's correct.
You drew the ire of the anti-fur brigade.
Sure did.
He says it proudly, wearing it as a badge.
Yeah, actually, well, at first, an anti-trapper, when you get the sights set on you by an anti-fur group, you kind of get a little worried. And at first I'm not going to lie, I was like, what did I do? And it all stemmed from one of the contestants, actually just out this part of the world here, shot an albino beaver. And
really?
yeah, so he posted the picture. Well, he showed me the picture, and I said, "Do you mind if I post it?" He goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And he said, "Do I have to turn this one in?" I'm like, "What are you going to do with it?" He goes, "Well, I want to get it mounted." I'm like, "Done. Weigh it. You're using it. You're making use of it.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's all we wanted.
Go crazy. You take it." And I went to the taxidermist, and it's sitting in his living room now. But that picture went viral, and before I know it was 750,000 views plus, in a couple days. Yeah. And oh boy, that's when all of a sudden the people in Vancouver got wind of what I was doing, and then ecological genocide and all these catchphrases started coming out, and on it went. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how many beaver did you end up getting into your competition?
601, 610, something like that.
So there was still another 37,000 that weren't used.
So many.
Absolutely. Yeah. But out of that, how much castor did you get?
Dried was 92 pounds.
92 pounds?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had them all dried. I had them all nicely taken care of. Dried them, turned them, put them into the freezer. I pulled them out, and it was just like today, ugly rain. And I drove to Winnipeg. And by the time I got through the rain, every one of those milk crates full of all that perfectly dried castor all looked like I just pulled them out of the animal that minute.
Oh.
And that's what I was like, So I stopped in Brandon, which was 2 hours outside of Winnipeg yet, and I bought that cheap corded rope, 50-foot rope, and I started winding it all over in the back of the box of the truck, and I'm hanging all these casters and driving down the Trans-Canada Highway trying to re-dry castor.
Oh my heavens.
That's exactly what Mary said when she opened up the back door, and she just looked, and there is this spider web of casters on this truck. Oh. And she goes, "I got to get a picture of this." I found out after the fact that, you could take them right out of the animal and give them to them, and they dry them 3 days regardless how dry or how wet they are, and that's when they grade them, is after 3 days. And Glenn was laughing at the Napa Depot there, and he just started chuckling. He goes, "I've never seen this before." But
probably never will again.
No, I don't think so. But he took them all in, and then he showed me, how they grade them, and gave me, Castor 101 kind of thing. And
it's pretty interesting, isn't it?
It's extremely interesting, very.
And the major use for it is like Chanel No. 5.
Yeah, your perfume and your cosmetic industry. And now a lot of food flavorings.
Yeah, raspberry especially.
Mm-hmm.
I was telling somebody at the show that today, and I could see on the spot she was deciding she likes strawberry better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really ever plan it. It just kind of happens.
Well, we want to come do skunk with you again. We'd like to do raccoon too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think raccoon would be a hoot. We don't have raccoon where we
No.
are.
No, we could do raccoons for sure.
And
Yeah.
apparently we have skunk, but we just...
Well,
You know what they do in skunk now? You could make a show out of skunks.
I could, but it'd be more fun to do with you.
Yeah. So...
There's always a laugh or some absurd thing that happens, and you go,
Yep.
didn't plan on that.
Even the fun we can have going to downtown Ituna and having Chinese s'more, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. That was good.
That's always the big joke in Western Canada, because every little town has a Chinese restaurant, and they all have Chinese and Western food.
Yeah, that's right. That is, yes.
That's always the menu, right?
83.4 pounds is the biggest beaver.
Yeah.
Sorry for taking so long on this. And we got a grand total of 23,684 pounds total. And the winner was 5,260.5 pounds.
Holy.
137 beavers.
137 beavers.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he got $25 or $30 a pop for them
That's correct. Yeah. He got his bounty for those, and then on top of that, he won a sheared beaver hat, like an RCMP style, but made out of sheared beaver. And the guy that got the biggest beaver also got a hat, and the second place guy got a hat, and first place also got some beaver traps.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so are you going to do it again?
I would love to, just to show the animal rights group in Vancouver that they did not win.
Yeah.
But when all was said and done, it was better part of 3 months of work, and I came up with $750.
Yeah.
And I have 2 flat tires or any kind of hiccup like that, and it's just we all know beavers just aren't there, and even collecting them in that quantity, it still wasn't. I didn't lose, so great, but I sure didn't make.
Yeah.
There was a few people counting my millions there, I'll tell you. They were laughing, oh, yeah, look at this guy. He's making out like a bandit. Yeah, $750 for 3 months of work.
Yeah.
That's a lot of effort
that's
for
right.
not much return.
That's exactly what it was. So unfortunately, just the return isn't there.
No.
And I would love to do it every year. It's a tough one.
Is the beaver population a little bit more controlled now too?
Mother Nature is taking care of it more than we ever could. The dryness now, it's starting finally to knock the numbers down. I'm seeing every year now for the last 3 years that every time I go winter beaver trapping and punching through the ice, and I'm finding 2-3 feet of just air under the ice,
which is creepy because you can do this, punch through and notice the air, and then go yourself.
Well, that's why I always tell everybody, walk with that spud in front of you. You gotta do it like that.
I've had that moment. It's like, boom.
Well, we've learned it the hard way. That's why I always tell everybody, walk in front.
Well, buddy, it has been a pleasure. We got to come see you again this fall.
Absolutely.
I'm happy you could spend the time.
It's been a blast.
You have to drive home in the freezing rain now.
Yeah.
Because it's April in Saskatchewan.
Exactly.
Well, but I did want to recognize that we are sitting in Windy Acres, which is a
yes.
beautiful bed
place.
and breakfast that's just 5 kilometers west of Yorkton, Saskatchewan. And they have been nothing but hospitable to house us while we're here for the show, but to allow us a little space so that we can have a really nice, quiet conversation with Ryan. And it's always a pleasure to be here with Ken and Joanne.
Absolutely. So. If you're ever here and you looking for a fine place to stay, Windy Acres is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
We also want to thank, of course, our sponsor, Old Smokes Coffee.
Old Smokes Coffee.
You turned me on to that. I tried that today. That is good coffee. Yeah.
So oldsmokescoffee.com.
That's OLE.
Yes, OLE, Smokes Coffee. You can order their coffee online. It's a very unique craft coffee, like craft beer, but it's a smoked flavor, and they also have regular flavors as well. But anyway, they've been very good to us, and we're here representing them at the Yorkton Parkland show.
And we also have a promo code with them.
Yes.
So if you go online to oldsmokescoffee.com, you place an order. If you use the promo code Trapping Inc, all one word, just enter Trapping Inc, and you'll get 10% off of your purchase.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
Been
it's
fun.
always a pleasure to see you,
Absolutely.
and we're looking forward to getting back out with you.
Definitely.
Thank you to everybody for sitting here and listening to us laugh our fool heads off. We have so much fun with our friends. It's so easy to sit and talk. So anyway, hopefully we see you guys down the line.
And as viewing public and fellow trappers, we want to thank you guys for what you do promoting the industry. Not enough is being done for promotion of trapping, and I like what you guys are doing, and that's why I've always been, anything you ever need from me, it's always there. So thank you to both of you.
We'll talk about money then.
Whole other conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.